Good morning, delegation. Good morning to you all. Welcome and greetings. It's fantastic to see so many reef stewards and custodians coming together to share knowledge to help protect the reef. Welcome to everyone who's attending here in person in Cairns. Welcome to all our delegates joining online, and also welcome to people attending at our watch parties in Townsville and also in Brisbane. Just a few small housekeeping details. So you will have come in through those front stairs. Emergency exits are through those stairs that you came up when you entered the building. So food will be served just outside of this room. There's another set of stairs further on past that room as an emergency exit as well. It is very wet and rainy outside, so please be mindful of wet and slippery conditions while you're moving around Cairns. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Gudjugudju from Yidinji to provide a welcome to country. Thank you.
Now I could have felt like a pirate walking up them stairs there with like one leg, like hopping like a peg leg. Yeah, just like to welcome everybody here on behalf of my mob, Gimuy, Walubarra, Yidinji people. Just like to say, Bilangaran, Bimbi, on behalf of Father, welcome to the country, Bilangaran, Yidinyalan, on behalf of the elders as well. Just in regards to myself and my family and, our community as Yidinji, we're also surrounded by other tribal groups as well. My clan is Gimuy, Walubarra, Yidinji. We have 8 clans. We've got the Walubarra, Dulabed, Walubarra, Walubarra as well up on the Atherton Tablelands. And our close neighbours, we've got Yidinji to going a little bit further up north. If you go up northwest, you got Jabagai mob. And then if you go to around Spiwa, you got Bulwai mob up that way. And if you're going down south, you'll end up with the mob from down there, Mamu mob, Jirabal mob, as you go further up around the Atherton Tablelands, and Natjanji mob around Malanda area, and all the Wundoi mob from a little bit further down south. So our mob was all tasked of custodians to look after and care for country. And when we look at the history of our history, I was on a documentary with David Attenborough talking about the Great Barrier Reef and and the formation of the reef, and from our cultural stories, and it gave you a bigger insight, I suppose, into where we came from in respect to looking after country, especially when we look after country going out towards more reef, what is now more reef, but we know as like it's the drop off there where it goes into the outer reef systems. And our people have been looking after the outer reef as well as the new reef that was formed some 20,000 years ago. I know you can't call it a new reef now, but an old one. But when you look at the history of Cairns City has only been here for 148 years. And I kind of like to put it into perspective in a sense that, when I was born, Cairns was only about 120 years old, like not too. And my dad and my dad was born because he, if he was alive today, he'd be 110. So you can do the maths from that and taking it away from 148. Cairns City being around 30 years old when he was born. So when my grandfather was born, Cook was still sailing up, coming from down south, coming up this way. And when my great-grandfather was born, who was given the King Plate for Cairns, he was main chief for this country here. Cook was probably on the other side of Western Australia, still coming around the bend and coming around to, New South Wales. But in 148 years, we've had a lot of changes And when I talk about changes, not just the cultural changes that our people had to go from a custodianship role or looking after country, taking care of country and knowing what was there, and even today, where I suppose we always start off with a baseline survey. And when you're talking about the history of cans and stuff like that, baseline surveys for today in the western side of things probably only started 120 years ago. Everybody had a baseline survey. When our baseline survey started 60,000 years ago. And when you look at that history and the memory of myself growing up at Yarrabah on my mum's country, Gudjugudju country, I grew up, we used to go out to the reef, we used to fish at the reef, and before it became a tourist attraction. And my grandfather actually developed, and looked after and cared for some of the shallow reefs around Wonkala, which is called Turtle Bay today, just outside of Yarrabah. But we used to fish, hunt, and look after the reef. And one of the things we took care of in a sense of taking care of a country was making sure that hunting season was kept, to the regular seasons of hunting. And my grandfathers and all the old people then, the old custodians, would make sure no one hunted out of season. And we're still tasked with that duty today. One of the things and the biggest threat we've had is cyclone. And the other, not just that event, but climatic events that are happening. And one of the biggest issues is, the crown of thorns. But we're looking at scientific ways of taking care of crown of thorns. When everything has, no matter whether you're on sea country or on land country, has an enemy that keeps people and all the food in check. So animal life looks after us and looks after itself. And I think there should be more looking at who are the enemy of the crown of thorns. I can tell you off the top of my head, I know a couple because of my grandfather and growing up over at Yarrabah. But we're looking at other ways of actually combating that. And when you look at coral and sea and the sea life outside, and we've had climatic events, and I know everybody likes to go fishing and going out to the bommies that are at the reef where, our underground water system actually comes out at certain places in the reef, and everybody loves to go fishing there because that's where all the fish hang out. It's like going to a nightclub and having a drink of fresh water and going back out, Not that people go to the nightclubs and drink fresh water. They drink other, entertaining products. But the thing is if those aquifers aren't running clean, then that's also going to impact on our reef. And I think we should be doing more surveys and studies on the aquifers that actually goes out to the systems, because they cool the reef as well. And I know that we're looking at, getting to net zero by, 2050. But are we looking at the aquifers that actually run out there? And, what happens on land, we know culturally affects what's happening out at sea. So, are the aquifers running clean when we've got the mining industries around Gladstone and everywhere else actually, disturbing that flow and the ebb and flow of that system? And if there hasn't been any research done on it, I suggest that we do research in the aquifers and actually find out, are they running as clean and fast as they normally do? Because we know through our cultural stories, when you talk about Lake Eacham and Lake Barine and that connectivity between Lake Eacham, Lake Barine and the aquifers that run underneath there, and they come out here at Wharf 1, but that system goes underneath again and it comes out around Green Island. Then it comes out again and ends up out at Moore Reef. Then it goes the other way and goes up to Arlington Reef. So, all these aquifer system, underground water systems that are there, are they still in check? And have we checked out in regards to the checks and balances of that water and how pure it is? We've been working with CSIRO and we've been looking at the water quality here in Cairns as well. So our ranger group are looking at the water quality, and we're walking the creeks to look after that and start to see where, and we're going to do our baseline study from now. But the old ones were there, and they were there in place. But I'd just like to say welcome. Enjoy your day in this lovely rainy weather that we're having currently. But we all got a role to play, and we all got our part. And, our traditional custodianship was there for thousands of years. So the people with a lot of the knowledge and the strength, a number of them are here in the room from their communities, and their experience and the knowledge that they've gained from their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents and stuff like that, similar to what I have in regards to my being brought up, not just over at Yarrabah, but we also lived in Palm Island, because my dad was a bit of an activist, so they moved us from Yarrabah to Palm Island. I'm talking this is in the 60s, so we used to build our own little canoe out of iron sheets from Reef, patch them up, and actually start canoeing around Palm Island, but, back in the day. But today, I suppose, in the climatic event of what's happening, not just here, but globally, we all got to come together, and we've all got to look at how we can achieve what we need to achieve for us to survive. Because if a lot of our food stock are lost because of craziness and we're not looking to take care of it, I think we're all tasked with that individually, culturally, and as a group. And today, I'd just like to say, I wish I could be here for the rest of the day, but I won't be. Well, my partners and some of the rangers will be here probably a little bit later on, because we are doing a seagrass project, and we've been doing that with a number of groups who are in the room, Tropwater, JCU as well, and doing stuff with CSIRO and working together. And like I said before, it's about us coming together, working together, because we can't move forward if we're opposing each other. We just like two magnets when you turn them around, north and north face each other, and we just don't want to attract each other. We're going to have that little bit of a north-south thing where we can actually come together. And that's about it. There are forces at play that we've got to contend with, and that's the climate. And how do those events affect what's happening out in the sea? But thank you, welcome. Have a lovely day, and na job good no karan na malwagur while you're here sitting on country, all the good spirits take care of you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Gudjugudju, for that welcome and for sharing some of your knowledge. So while we were planning this event, our traditional owner advisors recommended that we encourage all delegates to share something about themselves to kick off their presentations. They very wisely recognised that the relationships we have with each other are essential to our connection and care for country. So in that spirit, my name's Mia Hugenboom. During my university years, I spent a year studying overseas, where I undertook a marine ecology field course. Unfortunately, when we arrived at our field site, there'd been local deforestation and sediment runoff that meant the water was just so murky we couldn't really even see the reef. So that was a moment that really inspired me to learn about reefs and to begin to work to preserve them. Today, I work as Acting Deputy Director for the Reef Restoration Adaptation Program at Australian Institute of Marine Science. I'm also Head of Academic Group for Marine Biology and Aquaculture at James Cook Uni. and co-convener of the symposium with the wonderful Mary.
Thank you, Mia, and hi, everyone. So good to see you all. Some of my happiest memories from growing up are swimming and fishing on the lakes of Minnesota with my family. I'm a naturally curious person who I think, like many of you, is energized and inspired by spending time in nature. But Minnesota is about as far away as you can get from coral reefs. So it wasn't actually until I was about 20 years old that I had the chance to see a reef for the first time while studying abroad in Kenya. And needless to say, that experience had a huge impact on my life. So today I work as the director of the COTS Control Innovation Program at the Great Barrier Reef Foundation and am co-convener of this symposium alongside the lovely Mia.
Thanks, Mary. So I wanted to give a really brief overview of the program for the symposium and our cross-cutting themes. First, to flag with you also that we've got an updated version of the program on the website, so take the version that's on the website as your point of truth for the schedule. There were a few last-minute changes, as is almost always the case with symposia like this. The cross-cutting themes of the symposium are really around sharing knowledge and innovation in coral reef protection and restoration, around cross-sector partnerships and collaboration and the importance of bringing people from different sectors together to build knowledge and create new knowledge and awareness, and also importantly around First Nations leadership and local stewardship. We have a program of 5 workshops, so it was fantastic to see lots of people out at JCU Smithfield for our workshops yesterday. Thank you a lot to the workshop conveners for sharing their knowledge in those sessions. We've now got 3 days of concurrent sessions here with about 110 talks plus 6 plenaries and 12 keynote addresses. An important feature of the symposium are panel discussion sessions at the end of the day, where we're really seeking to synthesise learnings across the sessions each day, bringing experts together to share their knowledge. We also have some networking events and a public forum scheduled for the Thursday afternoon evening. A reminder about our welcome function, which will be held this afternoon. There'll be an address from Senator Nita Green. We're hoping to be able to hold that session up on the pool deck upstairs, but we'll make a call about that at midday. So we'll give you an update about that. If it's not upstairs on the pool deck due to the weather, it will be downstairs in bar 36. Also a friendly reminder about the field trip happening on Friday. So if you're keen to go out and visit more reef and see some of the work that's happening in the local area, please register for that field trip if you haven't done so already. Putting together events like this is a huge collaborative effort. I'd like to ask for a round of applause in a moment for the event managers, the Reef and Rainforest Research Centre, and members of the organising committee for all of their hard work putting together such an excellent program. So please join me in a round of applause. Also, thank you to our generous sponsors who've made this event free for you all as delegates. This is the Australian Government Reef Trust, the Reef Restoration Adaptation Program, COTS Control Innovation Program, the Reef Authority, Australian Institute of Marine Science, the CSIRO and the RRRC. So thank you to all of those sponsors for their generous contributions.
Thanks so much, Mia. So this is a really timely opportunity for all of us to come together, share learnings, and identify future priorities for building resilience. There's no doubt that significant action is needed to reduce global emissions. And watching the events unfolding now on the Great Barrier Reef and reefs around the world this summer makes it all the more clear to me that there's an urgent need to also develop and deploy actions that support these incredible ecosystems through the climate changes they're already facing. And global initiatives like the UN Ocean Decade, the growing global community of conservation and restoration scientists and practitioners, and all of you here today and joining us online tell me that I'm not alone. So on behalf of the organizers, we thank you for being here. We thank you for dedicating your time, passion, and expertise to the work you do, and for joining us to share it over this week. We invite you to connect with each other and share your perspectives respectfully to strengthen existing partnerships and make new ones. As Gudjugudju said, we're all in this together, and we've all got a role to play. So welcome everyone to the Reef Resilience Symposium 2024, and let's get stuck in. Now we have just a few short remarks from some distinguished guests before we roll into our first plenary. Can I please welcome Professor Selina Stead, CEO of the Australian Institute of Marine Science, to the stage. Thanks.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Well, good afternoon, good evening, depending when you are joining from. I was asked to talk for I wasn't sure if that was 2 hours, 2 minutes. No, I've seen a few former students here from my time at Newcastle upon Tyne, so don't worry, we're not going there again with the lectures. But I'm really privileged to be here. It's a huge honour to be able to say a few words, and I'll keep my remarks very short. But I would just like to keep the tradition, if I may, and say a few words about myself. If my father had been alive today, he'd be 102. And when I was a little girl, we were very close, within hours of coming to Australia. And if it hadn't been for my grandfather taking ill, I would have been here quite a few decades ago. And then when I was at the University of Bangor in North Wales, studying marine biology and oceanography, I met Doc Alec from James Cook University, who found out that I had a real passion for coral reefs and sharks. And he was like, "You should be coming all the way to Townsville and Cairns." I'm still practicing how to say Cairns, so you're going to have to help me out over the conference. But that seed was planted a long time ago, so I am truly really happy and delighted to be here. I'm going to keep my message really short. I don't want to stand in the way of the knowledge exchange and the great minds that are here today, but it is a very simple message. Ideas are cheap, but implementation is difficult and it's expensive. To do that, you've got to have inclusive collaboration, not competition. So I ask each and every one of you, regardless of your discipline, regardless of your sector, whether you're from government, industry, NGO, education, whatever sector, we really need to act at pace. And I will certainly be doing everything within my portfolio to ensure we've got the funding, the facilities, and an environment like this symposium to do that. So thank you, let's act, and really looking forward to networking and hearing all the talks. Thank you very much. Enjoy the conference.
Thank you so much, Selina. Next up, we have Richard Quincey, General Manager of Operations at the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority.
Good morning. I grew up on Turrbal and Yagara country down in Brisbane, but I've been very fortunate to spend a career involved in marine and island protected area management, mostly up here in North Queensland. I'd just like to reinforce some comments that Mary made about what we see on the reef at the moment and be really clear about the Reef Authority's position on climate change. And that is that we are, as we strongly advocate for reducing emissions, that we need to do everything we can now to manage the reef for now and into the future. In doing that, the Reef Authority has a revised blueprint, and that is about climate adaptation and resilience of the reef. And the blueprint really reinforces the need for knowledge, traditional knowledge, scientific knowledge, and partnerships in delivery of innovative management that we're going to need for the future. It really also highlights that we need to maintain our foundational management and improve it. That continues to be vital. But it's really clear that expanding our reef toolbox is an important part of what we need to do into the future. And that will mean new techniques and also knowing that these need to be progressive and timely, but well considered. And I reflect that Crown of Thorns starfish was once a novel control action. Back when it was site scale in the 1960s at places like Green Island, just out from here, it was not seen as a crucial part of reef management, but that has changed. And the point I reflect on with that is that consensus wasn't always achieved instantly in whether it was an appropriate action, a good action, and it took a while to build and work across areas and in partnerships to do it. And I still think that that doesn't mean that unanimous agreement still exists in it. And I think they're the challenges that we're still going to have to face as we go forward. It took a lot of focused research. It took a lot of partnerships. It took a lot of people, working on that problem to get to where we are. As Selina highlighted, interventions at smaller scale are arduous and resource intensive, and we know that. And I think the perspective for me that brings is many views and strong views often about whether they're the right thing to do or the most important thing to do. And that's also one of the challenges that we've got to face in bringing about a new reef management paradigm. With that in mind, I think we should reflect that it's a challenge that people like ourselves across the world in caring for reefs face. We're not alone in it. And just reinforcing that the building of partnership and the building of knowledge is really key in delivering that for the future. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Richard. And finally, can I introduce Matt Barwick, Director of Reef Restoration and Partnerships at the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water.
G'day everyone, it's really a pleasure to be here today, and I'm looking forward to the week we have ahead. In the spirit of sharing, I grew up most of my life in inland New South Wales, save for a few little family holidays when I was young. I remember falling asleep up in the front end of a tinny on a bunch of life jackets up around Green Island with my family, and I reflect on those photos much through my childhood, these amazing plate corals and giant clams that you could see in these photos looking down through the water. I think the sense of wonder that I had at that time probably connects a lot of us in this room today and certainly shaped my career. So it's really wonderful to be able to listen to the expertise in this room and the conversations that will take place around how we preserve and restore the values that we hold dear in terms of reefs. So I've been asked to say a few words about some of the cross-cutting themes that shape the conversation today, including the importance of ecological intelligence and decision support tools and models for co-design and cross-sector collaboration. Now, if you're in this room, you know that coral reef systems worldwide are facing unprecedented human-induced stresses that are threatening their existence. And if we have any chances of preserving and restoring those values and benefits from reef systems that I referred to, we really need to understand their ecology and their function, and we need to be able to propagate that knowledge into decision support tools that allow us to make fast, consistent, evidence-based decisions. Decisions like what might be the interventions that we would look to test and scale, such as what we're seeing take place in the Reef Restoration Adaptation Program, also known as RAP. It's also vital that we have the ability to build and nurture collaborative relationships, cross-disciplinary partnerships across all sectors, including traditional owners, academia, governments, non-profit organisations, industry and community. On the topic of collaboration, I have to say that as a relative newcomer to the reef space, I was pre-warned from a number of independent sources that I might expect in coming to this environment a highly competitive, elbows out kind of environment where sometimes the dynamics between players take centre stage over what's best for the reef. But I'm really happy to say that that's been far from my experience today. And that's really important because if we're to have any chance in winning this fight in terms of preserving and restoring some of the key values and benefits of reefs, we're going to need to collaborate until it hurts. In terms of working in a cross-disciplinary way and drawing on numerous types of knowledge and respecting each other's views in order to be able to make decisions effectively and move fast, as was said earlier. Moving forward in this way, I think we can develop an innovative, effective and equitable strategies and tools that are needed to provide a positive future for reef systems. So I'd like to thank you for your time this morning. I hope you're as inspired as I am to be able to sit in these rooms and hear the conversations that will take place and the opportunities to share and learn from each other over coming days. Thank you.